Hey, what's going on? If you're watching this video, you are like, all right, he said something about pH and about there being more to it. Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you the truth about what pH is, why it matters, and really go into how we're being misled when it comes to pH, why is it so important, and how it can harm and or help our body. All right, so this is going to be awesome, and this is going to be unlike the videos I normally do because I'm going to use different books and references to share with you from other experts, which, by the way, I'm not an expert, but from doctors and experts on why this matters, so that way you have a better understanding of how we're being misled and what you can do about it. All right, so very first thing we're going to get into is exactly what is pH. Now, I know a lot of people have an idea on what it is, but when you see the references I share with you, it may open your eyes to a few different things that you weren't expecting. So the first book I'm going to share, which I actually shared in the first video, if you didn't see that first one on why antioxidants is the #1 test I do, this book here is called Healing is Voltage by Dr. Jerry Tennant, and this manual is a handbook. It's super thick, and he truly believes that we heal, and everything that's involved with healing is connected to voltage, all right, and the voltage that we have in our cells. So here's what he says when he talks about pH. pH stands for potential hydrogen. It is a way of talking about the amount of acid and base in our bodies. It is also a way of talking about the amount of voltage in our bodies. pH is measured on logarithmic scale, where 0 is the most acidic and 14 is the most alkaline. 7 is considered neutral. So Dr. Jerry talks about the things I share in every video about the pH scale being 0 to 14, 7 being neutral, but he also shares the part that's pretty unique. Most of us look at pH as just being acids and bases, but he actually shares that voltage is very important when being able to understand the pH of someone, right? So let me share with you another reference, and this one comes from a completely different book. It is called The Battle for Health is Over pH. This is a fantastic book. It is by Gary Tunsky. It's a small book, but it really breaks down why pH is important and how having the right pH can help your body, while not having the right pH can definitely harm it. Let's see what he says. He shares the abbreviation pH stands for the power of hydrogen. A pH test using a piece of litmus paper actually measures the concentration of positively charged hydrogen ions in your body. Ions are electrically charged atoms or groups of atoms that together make up the electrical juice or current your body uses to communicate. The more positively charged hydrogen ions present, the more acidity present. The fewer hydrogen ions present, the less acidity. So there you have it. You have another professional talking about electrical juice, okay? Talking about the electrical charge and juice of our cells. So we can't just look at the salts and minerals and things that are added to our water and assume that that's all pH is. It's not just adding in baking soda. It's not just adding in salts and things like that. You have to have an electrical charge. There's two parts to this. Electrical charge and then those minerals, and we're going to learn that as we continue throughout this, right? So with that being said, we need to figure out why acidity is so bad, right? And so I know a lot of people assume that, oh, your body has buffering systems, which it does, to separate things that need to be alkaline versus things that need to be acidic. But what happens if we consume too much acidity? Let's see what Dr. Jerry says in Healing is Voltage. He shares that chronic disease and pain are always associated with an acidic pH, which is the same as saying that chronic disease and pain are always associated with a loss of voltage. Health is associated with the presence of voltage, which is the same as saying that healthy people have an alkaline pH. Once again, Jerry ties it all back into voltage and the challenges that come up with that. I want to share with you another resource. We kind of talked about it in the first video, but this is Dr. Robert Wright on killing cancer, not people. And if you haven't seen that last video, I highly recommend watching it. But Quick recap, he lost his parents to chemotherapy and radiation, and he shares with you natural ways and helps people battle cancer using natural ways, okay? And so here's what he shares when it comes to acidity. He says that acid and alkaline are always at war within us. And because we constantly overload our system with acidic foods and drinks, the H plus positive hydrogen ions, acid usually wins and our bodies become acidic over time. Read cancer. Next, we're going to go back over to Gary with the battle for your health is over pH. And here's what he shares. It is important to understand that the pH of your blood is critical to your life, to your very survival. The pH of blood has a very small degree of tolerance for variation. Your body does everything in its power to keep the pH of your blood within the neutral range between 7.30 and 7.45, including pulling alkalizing minerals such as calcium out of your bones and other body stores if necessary. So this is the stuff I share in all my videos. If you've seen them, you hear what I say when I share with you what happens if our body becomes too acidic. Our body is going to try to maintain it, and it's going to start pulling those things from us. And he shares it right here in his book. And so all the people who keep saying, oh, your body has a way of getting alkaline when it needs to, it does. It's just harming you in the process. He continues to say this: if the body is overwhelmed by excess acid from poor diet or overexposure to chemical and environmental toxins, built-in compensating mechanisms go into effect in an attempt to neutralize and excrete acidic toxins from the blood, cells, lymph, and tissue fluids. There are 8 internal buffering systems the body uses to neutralize acids at balanced pH. So once again, having the wrong foods that we're consuming, all the things that are acidic. So if we're eating, once again, I shared this so many times, if we're eating the hamburgers, the ice creams, the cakes, all that type of stuff, and then we're washing it down with acidic water, we're not giving our body the pH that it needs to help itself out. And because of that, it's going to start pulling minerals from those different areas of your body that has the calcium, that has the magnesium, that has the potassium already there. And this is how we end up having different pains and ailments and problems that show up, okay? And as those cells continue, we end up having different types of diseases, diseases, which is dis-ease, like not ease happening in different areas of our body. And we wonder why we're getting cancer, why we're having different types of joint pains and things like that. Finally, he shares this: if left unchecked, these acid wastes will interrupt all life-sustaining cellular activities and functions, anything from the beating of your heart to the neurofiring of your brain. Over-acidification interferes with life itself, leading to all sickness and the one dis-ease, cellular malfunction. There you have it. It's coming from him. Everything, all the different ailments that you're hearing that the doctors are telling you about, is all ultimately just acidity happening in that specific part of the body with that specific area. And your body is really trying to help you. So cancer is really just a bunch of acidified toxic cells that are pushed to one specific area so the rest of your body can try to survive and be okay. So when you have esophagus cancer, that means all the damage that was done in this area, it took it and moved it and pocketed it in the throat. Or if you have, just any kind of cancer, a specific type, it is just being moved. All those cells that are toxic, that are acidic, that are harming the body, your body is just moving it to one place. And regardless of what type of ailment you're going through, they're just preludes, pre-warning signs that ultimately lead to cancer. And essentially though, they're all the same. If there's something you need to remember this cycle. And it goes like this. Acid produces mucus. Mucus produces inflammation. Inflammation produces infection. Infection produces scavengers. Scavengers produce acid waste. Acid waste produces disease and more acid. And this cycle just constantly repeats and repeats and repeats until you have cancer, until you die, even past cancer. Like, it'll continue going if we continue to consume acidic beverages, and foods. Alright? Alright, so hopefully you have a true understanding of why acidity is so bad for us, for our body. And now that we know this, let's start looking at some solutions for our pH. Okay, so let's see what these doctors and experts have to say about it. Let's go back to Gary with the battle for health is over pH. Let's see what he says. He shares that when our blood contains living nutrients, our body's cell metabolism and pH are in proper balance. When our cells are properly nourished, hydrated, and oxygenated, it is virtually impossible for us to become unwitting victims of illness and dis-ease. And he essentially asked the question, like, are you choosing life or are you choosing death? Okay? And the key things that he shares here is he's talking about living nutrients. Living nutrients. Let's see what Dr. Jerry says when it comes to his book or his handbook on healing his voltage. When people are sick, they often have decreased minerals in their bodies. Drinking water dilutes the minerals even more, leading to a reduction in the voltage and making them feel worse. The answer is to restore minerals and voltage, which allows you to drink the necessary amount of water. Alright, so both of these professionals share it pretty blatantly, but in case you haven't got it, when it comes to the foods, I'm just going to share, alright? So with our foods, we want to eat living foods, which means they need to be God-given foods that come from the earth, okay? So normally you want foods that have a seed, right? And I know it's getting tougher and tougher nowadays because foods are being made now that are supposed to be healthy and they don't have a seed, right? But anything and everything that is living. So that means pretty much your fruits, your vegetables, anything that comes up from the earth, right? Those are God-given foods. Those are what we should be eating food-wise. Everything else is acidic. Everything that's in a box, all the meats that we consume are dead. I know they may look good in stores, but those are pumped with chemicals just to look appealing, and they were dead way before they reached the store. Alright? Some people go to a local farmer and just try to get their food fresh, but still, that would probably be like the best type of meat if you're going to eat meat, but ultimately, that stuff is dead. If you're getting it from the grocery store, it's been dead for a while. All of the cookies, the cakes, the chips, all that stuff is dead. And because it's dead, it's not living, so it's not able to give that voltage, which means it's acidic, and it's taking away voltage. Alright? Which is harming us and creating more sickness and dis-ease in the body. So really quick, here is a list of alkaline foods. I'm going to share this from the books. So if you're eating these kinds of things, then you're on the right path. Just know that even when you eat these foods, when our body breaks it down, it leaves an ash, and that ash is acidic and oxidizing, all right? So we really want to look at our water as well, okay? So I showed you all the different foods. We haven't really talked much about water, but remember our body is 70 to 75% water. Should we be drinking the right water that is alkaline as well, that is living as well? Let's see what they say about this. Dr. Jerry shares that drinking acidic water steals electrons from your cells and damages them. Drinking water that has been made into carbonated beverages is drinking acid that is so concentrated that you can use it to clean the grease off of your engines or clean your toilets. How can that possibly be good for you? So the test that I do is around you see me using the pH drop, so I'm showing you that's acidic, right? And the ones that are alkaline, well, we'll get into that a little bit later, but what I'm showing you is the acidity. And I know I'm not showing you the full picture. I'm showing you just the chemical side, right? The acid and base side, because I'm meeting you where you're at, right? A lot of people don't know the stuff I just shared about alkaline actually having a voltage. Most people just know the acids and bases part. So I meet you where you're at, and I share more of this in the masterclass, right? So what about distilled water? Here's what Jerry shares about that. Many think it's healthy to drink distilled water. It is not. Distilled water pulls minerals out of your cells and into the water. You can kill yourself drinking distilled water. And then he shares an example of water drops being put into the eye and how it pulls the minerals from the eyes, right? And so you're thinking, but I just drink bottled water. Like I don't really have a distiller. Make sure you're looking at the labels of those bottled waters. it is normally reverse osmosis, distilled, purified, or a spring water or an alkaline water. Those are really your main options. Volcanic or artesian waters, those normally fall into the spring category. So don't let the fancy naming of these waters fool you, okay? In fact, Jerry talks about bottled water, and here's what he shares. Another problem is bottled water. Bottled water is almost always city water that's been put through a filter. It is perhaps cleaner than city water, but is still acidic and contains many other chemicals. Many cities have tap water that has toxic levels of copper, and copper is a zinc antagonist. So I know you don't know much about zinc, but zinc is one of those minerals that we need for our bodies to maintain that voltage. And the right bottled waters, not the right bottled waters, but bottled waters actually harm and prevent us from getting the full benefits of zinc. So if you're taking a zinc supplement or you're taking a 1-a-day pill or any of that multivitamin stuff, the water you're drinking could be inhibiting or preventing that mineral that you're consuming to activate and be used in the body. I mean, he's shared so much about waters already. Let's hear what he has to say about reverse osmosis. I do not recommend reverse osmosis even though it takes chemicals out of tap water because it generally runs between 4 and 5 pH, which is extremely acidic. Some spring waters are good, but I've found many of them are acidic too. One of the only spring waters I've found to be consistently alkaline is Evian water. Acid rain deposits have ruined a lot of spring waters and well waters. If you know of a spring that you're getting comes from a reliable source and the pH is above 7, I think that's a fairly good alternative. So, once again, he doesn't recommend RO. And reverse osmosis, I look at that as this stuff for machines. It's for devices, not for human consumption. All right, so this is for your irons. This is for your radiator in your car. These are for different things like that, but not for humans. And it's just because it's so acidic. And I know that there are different companies that sell reverse osmosis filters and they remineralize it. Remember, they're only doing one part of the puzzle, right? They're just adding minerals into it and they are not having that electrical charge there. So it's really just mass. It's still oxidizing and it's still gonna pull from you. Mainly because those minerals are not natural. They're scientific made and they aren't ionic, which is really what you need. He also talks about a few of the waters that he recommends, but here's the thing. The time that he wrote this book was a little bit different, right? But ultimately, Evian, by the time we get it, and it doesn't have that voltage, right? So it's not gonna be that good. We already know that's oxidizing. I've tested it before. And so it's really tough to find bottled waters, especially these days, because many of them contain microplastics, you got forever chemicals, and all these things already in the waters. That's really just better to filter the water yourself instead of paying a bottled water company to have filtered water just to put microplastics and BPAs and all those other things back into our drinking water. So we kind of talked about RO and the minerals that they're adding. Many of these bottled water companies, they actually do that. If you look at the back, you'll see the minerals that they add. So let me share with you what these minerals are actually used for. Calcium chloride is something that's normally found in water, and that is used to de-ice the roads. Sodium bicarbonate is also the same as potassium bicarbonate, and that's something that is essentially just a baking soda. And you can add baking soda to your water, but we already know that doesn't make it alkaline. There's two parts you need, that electrical charge and the minerals. Magnesium sulfate, when you see that on the back, just think of an Epsom salt, okay? That is the Epsom salts that they use when you're taking a bath and you want to relax and soothe your body. That's essentially what's being added. And even though companies are getting more scientific with the different blends of artificial chemicals that they're adding to the water to make you enjoy it to where it's enjoyable, just know that those are not natural. And because they're not natural, they're going to lead to a lot of health challenges down the road, and they really aren't helping us as far as alkalinity. And so this is what your doctor is talking about when they say alkaline water does nothing. They're talking about these bottled waters because they only focus on one part, and that is the chemical side. All right, so now that we understand that there's two things required to have true alkaline water, I can show you why all these bottled waters are doing us no good, okay? First thing is the antioxidant potential, right? You need that electrical charge. So let's look at H factor let's look at H factor, okay? When we do the first test, we see that it has a negative ORP. Fantastic, right? However, when we do the pH test, we see that's acidic. So despite it having the negative charge, it's missing the minerals. And because of that, it's not going to do our body any good. If we take a look at alkaline water, for example, let's take a look at Action water. We see the first test that we do, it is acidic or is oxidizing. Despite the fact that it is an alkaline water, and when we add in the pH drops, it has the minerals to help us out. It's ultimately not good for us. Finally, let's take a look at a water that is ionized, right? Let's take a look at the one that a lot of people enjoy, which is Essentia. Essentia ends up having a positive ORP, right, which shows that's oxidizing. It has a alkaline base initially because of all the stuff that's added to it. But the good thing about it is that it is ultimately superior hydration, right? That superior hydration works really well. The reason why is because it is actually ionized. It is a smaller form of water. However, because it took so long to get to you, or to get to the stores or get to the shelf and get in your hands, that electrical charge that they initially had dissipates over time. So every solid bottled water is going to be acidic and truly not good for us in one of those three ways. I just gave you three different examples. If there's a water, which is what I'm testing for every week, if there's a water that actually passed all three of these, then I can say it's good for you. And so this is what I'm testing for every week. And so far I haven't been able to find one. So there you have it. That is the truth about pH. I've shared so much with you. Once again, these books I will put in the description of this video. And if you're serious about having true alkaline water, you understand the benefits of it, and want a water that has a voltage and the minerals to help you out, check out that masterclass. I break down how to have that in the comfort of your home and save you thousands on all this bottled water stuff. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.